All right, so let's get to the business. First man. Okay, guys. I love the way he starts his video like that every time. It just gets me. All right. Anyway, let's get to the business because I don't want to waste your time, and I'd be lucky to get more than 3 minutes of your attention because although I have very few numbers, that's what the stats are saying. No more than 2 to 3 minutes of your attention. So let me at least make that valuable. And then if you want to continue watching, you can continue watching. So, what are we talking about? We are talking about embracing change, all right? Which is a big deal for me. That's like my weakness numero uno, my biggest pitfall as a human. And I'll go and elucidate that, or why I say that. But that's like a really big issue for me in life. And that's something that I'm trying to figure out. And so I imagine that many people have a similar issue. And so let's talk about it. Let's talk about what that is, how to deal with it. All right. Quick reminder, who am I? I don't want to walk around and pretend like I'm some sage guru who's got all the answers because I think that's disingenuous. I mean, we're talking about life, right? We're not talking about physics problems that have defined solutions and you can share how you got to those solutions. I mean, we're talking about life, and life is variable and it's complicated and it's not immediately obvious, you know. So I don't want to walk around and pretend like I got the answers. Who I am, I'm just some dude, who has a variety of interests in a variety of things, who sees himself in, in somewhere up there. I see myself up there, and I'm just climbing the ladder to get there. That's who I am. So I'm trying a bunch of shit and finding myself in precarious situations and then dealing with them head on. You know what I mean? Building an app, a platform that, I really believe can solve a lot of people's problems, a lot of students' problems, and also, put me in a position in a really good position in life. It's not about the money, really. It's about the process and the progress and, solving those problems. But I would love to be at the helm of something, so large and diverse. And so this is my journey and all the things associated with like actually being employed. So, I'm not homeless and I don't starve while I'm on this process. And, and then just sort of taking a look at life objectively from the outside and trying to figure out, all the complications and so on and so forth. So we can talk about it. Again, there's a diary, this is a vlog, really about all the considerations, the mindsets, and sort of what the day-to-day of somebody who is trying to accomplish this looks like, so that you in a similar position or future people in a similar position who are trying to get there and don't really know, what's going on, can have somebody to look to help them figure out those answers, because I was once in that position. That's what this whole thing is about. So quick reminder. Cool. Now, we're talking about embracing change. Okay, so the reason that's a problem for me is because I hate that shit. I hate uncertainty, and I'm so bad with it. Like, I am terrible with uncertainty, which I think is a very human thing, but just some people are better at dealing with it than others. And unfortunately, I'm not one of those people, right? If something is unclear to me for prolonged periods of time, it becomes troublesome. And so we're talking about like things that actually matter, like, career related things, relationship related things, personal, internally, that type of stuff. And again, I think that's incredibly human, and some people are just better at dealing with it than others, right? But I'm not. And so I've always been like, my life has been tumultuous in a variety of realms, and I've been forced to sort of be in situations that aren't immediately clear, which again is life. I'm not trying to make myself out to seem like some charity case or like I'm special in some way. It's sort of just life in general. But like, for instance, here's an example, right? I came to Canada for university, and it was incredibly unclear, because I'm here because I was here on a student visa, what is supposed to happen after I graduate. Like, obviously what's supposed to happen is I leave and I go back home. Okay. That is, I guess, in and of itself pretty straightforward. But that is not what I wanted to happen. That's not the direction I wanted to go. And all the things that happen after I get back home were incredibly unclear because that was not a space that I wanted to continue being in. And I didn't feel like that space sort of benefited me in any real way. So it was always unclear to the people around me. Okay, Andrew, graduation is coming up. You're going to finish eventually. Where are you, what's going to happen next? Where are you going to be? What are you going to do for work? Where are you going to live? Where are you going to, you know what I mean? And it's like the normal type of thing. And I didn't know because, in a lot of people that, if you're like, for instance, you're doing a professional degree, right? You're in law, you're in medicine, sort of the path, as at least as far from the outside, is like you're going to go through this professional degree and then you are most probably going to participate in that field that you studied, right? Maybe it's different if you like pursued political science, or if you pursued art, or if you pursued psychology or something, and you're like, those are sort of just, the courses that you can take because you want to go into university but aren't entirely sure, what you want to like specify, like what you want to do, right? Going into something like physics, astrophysics, one would assume that that's what you're gonna pursue, because that's not something that you just pick lightly and just do, right? And so all throughout the time I was doing that, this incredibly complex, very difficult degree, I had no idea, because I knew for sure I didn't want to pursue physics as a career. Like, I knew that for sure. But what I was learning in school had nothing to do with the rest of the world, like all the other, you know what I mean? Like, it gives you skills for sure in that can be used in different domains, but it's not entirely clear what the fuck you're gonna do with that after the fact. And even personally, like in my own life, I was trying to figure that out. What am I actually trying to do with the rest of my life? I didn't know. And then on top of that, the fact that I was going to be kicked out of Canada as soon as that period was over made it even more stressful and unclear, because it's like, okay, well, so now we're going to get to this date that is certain and you're going to have to leave. Are you going to come back? Will you be able to come back? What are you going to do once you leave? What are you going to do if you come back? All these questions. And it's like, what about your degree? What is your degree worth? What does it mean? What do you know what I mean? And I was freaking out because I had no answers for anybody. I was like, listen, leave me alone. I'm just trying to graduate. That's it. Can we just do that part and then we'll figure out the rest of the shit? So that's an example of that uncertainty that fucking guts me. All right. And again, that's regular life shit. It's not like I'm special in some ways. Like, oh my God, Andrew went through that. How did he survive? Like, oh my God, this guy. No, it's not that deep. I mean, it was really deep at the time. Like, it was profound in my life and it caused a lot of problems. But like, objectively from the outside, it's not that deep. And so, but for me, change is a problem, because I don't want to say that I want to predict what's supposed to happen next, but I want to at least have like a general, like, I have a thought, an idea in my mind of how, some sort of framework that I can rest comfortable in and follow. A framework. But many a time, I mean, life is variable. It doesn't follow that framework, and that stresses me out, because I'm not saying I'm trying to dictate life step by step, but you know, another example is right now. Right now, I am in the job market, right? I'm transitioning out of a job that I've had for almost 5 years, which is a cool job. I like it, right? That's why I was there for 5 years. It was sick, paid the bills, lucrative. I enjoyed the team. I enjoyed the work. I enjoyed all that cool stuff. It was fly. All right. But now I'm transitioning. I feel like it's time to try out different things, expand myself, stretch myself in different avenues, experience life really in a different setting and see what I can accomplish. Simultaneously, I'm trying to develop a platform. I'm trying to create something larger than myself, and and sort of direct it to new heights, guide it, and create something significant. So uncertainty is a feature, because when you're building that shit, when it's entirely up to you, you get to control the chips, but unfortunately the world is dictating the chips, because it's not, you don't have the certainty of just, joining a job, like being hired for something, and then somebody else is dealing with all the shit, and then you just sort of have your tasks that you have to do on a day to day. That's certainty. You've got your 9 to 5, these are your hours, this is how much you're getting paid, this is when you go home, this is what you got to do throughout the day, etc., etc. It's clean. People appreciate that, and that's why they get stuck in the 9 to 5 situation. And that's cool. That's what you want to do for sure. That's not what I want to do. I have bigger dreams, goals, aspirations, and I want to try. I want to try. I want to take the path less traveled. I want to do the, you know what I mean? So, so here I am trying to build a completely, trying to create something of my own and see how far I can take it. And that's just riddled with uncertainty, because it's not certain that anyone is going to adopt what I'm creating. It's uncertain how long it's going to take before, if people do adopt it, how long it's going to take before we actually reach that. It's uncertain whether we're actually going to finish creating the thing. Like, I mean, we're going to finish for sure, but I can't control that. Like, anything can happen at any point in time and it falls flat, right? It's uncertain. It's just riddled with uncertainty. And so you can imagine someone who is an avid, like just completely against uncertainty, doing something like this is just, I'm going head on with my demons, the things that I'm trying to avoid all day, every day. Right. So now, like I'm saying, I'm transitioning out of a job and looking for new opportunities. And that is so uncomfortable, right? It's so uncomfortable because you're sending out applications, you're interviewing, you're speaking to people, there's some interest here, there's some interest there, but nothing is set in stone, right? And you're also weighing your options. You're trying to see which is the thing that you want to do versus the thing that you don't want to do so much. And at the end of the day, look, I need to pay the bills. I need to keep the lights on. I need to eat, right? If I'm going to launch a platform, if I'm going to develop something for myself, I need money to be able to do that until that thing becomes profitable. Otherwise, I'm just going to be broke and then I can't actually do anything. So I need a job, right? But now I'm in this sort of gray area where it's unclear what the next job is. And that is a whole lot of uncertainty and it's uncomfortable. All right. So those are examples of like the uncertainty that I'm going through in my life right now. The video is about dealing with that. The video is about what is sort of the headspace, what is the mentality, the mindset that can allow you to handle that shit. Number one, the only thing that you can do is try your best on a daily basis to recognize and remember that change is the nature of the universe. There is no stability. There's just none, right? Like there is no structure. Things look structured, but change is the driving force of the universe. Nothing stays. Everything is in motion all the time. So at least from like a larger sort of existential perspective, you try your best every day to keep that in mind, right? Like you'll go ahead. I got the Tao Te Ching over here, Lao Tzu, and that's really what my man is talking about. The entire book is that you will suffer from expecting life to follow a process, right? You will suffer expecting life to follow something and trying to hold on to outcomes and ideas. This is just not gonna happen, bro. This is just not gonna happen. Gotta get my coffee over here. Tim Hortons. This shit is fucking slaps, dude. This is a big boy cup. It looks kind of small in the camera, don't it? But this is a big boy cup. I'm a big boy. I'm gonna get my coffee in. Anyway, so that's number one. Life, the nature of life is dynamic and it cannot be any other way. All right. So this thing, the reason you're uncomfortable, the reason I'm uncomfortable is that I'm seeking to hold on. Like that is my issue. Like if you really go all the way down and extrapolate what the issue is, it's not that I'm just uncomfortable with change, because that is arbitrary. That doesn't mean anything. If I was uncomfortable with change, I wouldn't have a wardrobe of clothes, right? I would just be wearing the same shit every day because I'm uncomfortable of change, right? It would be difficult to be an artist. That's for sure. It would be difficult to consume art if I was just inherently uncomfortable with change. It'd be difficult to go outside. The weather is different every day. Like if we're really talking about like discomfort with change. Maybe that's a phobia that some people have. I don't, but I think sort of like the general population is uncomfortable with change. And if you look at what that is, it's because they're afraid to let go. That's really what that is. And that's what we're discussing over here in the Tao Te Ching, is people want to hold on to something and then feel as though they can dictate what happens, right? Like they can control it. And Lao Tzu is like, my guy, if that's where you're at, you're gonna suffer. And that's just the nature of it, because you're trying to do the antithesis of what the universe, of how the universe functions. So on a daily basis, sort of on a, sort of mindset level, the way to deal with this is just to remember that the universe is dynamic and it cannot be any other way. And so you must accept it. You must be fluid in the dynamicism. Number one is at least acceptance, not comfort in, but at least accept that that is the way the universe works. You cannot fight it. You know what I mean? Like the water doesn't try and go upstream in the opposite direction. That's absurd. And animals that do try and swim upstream have a hard time doing that. You're better off just going, because number two is eventually somehow coming to realize that ultimately everything resolves in the end, right? Like the nature of change, everything is cyclical. It will resolve. So there's turbulence, but you'll come back to resolution one way or another. And so you accept that everything is dynamic and everything must change. Level two is recognizing that eventually it will resolve. And so what that means, number two, is, sort of what is akin to placing your faith into a higher power, because you're relinquishing control and you're saying, I trust in this higher power, whatever it is, this our your God, your universe, whatever it is, this whatever, right? You're saying, I trust that you will make it right. It's easier if you're a religious person to sort of like put the onus on something else, and it's like, I trust you to do it and it will resolve. But if you don't want to do that, the idea stands. You trust that it will resolve and eventually come back to a place of stability and certainty. And it eventually will. It always will, right? Like if you study the universe since the Big Bang, it always does. There's a perturbation and then eventually there's stability. And then a perturbation and then stability, and a perturbation, stability. It's always in a constant state of flux. So, on the scale of one person's lifetime, that will happen a number of times, right? So number one is just accept that change is the nature of the universe. Number two is eventually come to trust, not wholeheartedly, because that's going to take some time, but eventually come to trust that things will resolve, right? So like even if everything looks like it's falling apart and you're like, oh my God, I'm going to be homeless, I won't have a job, and then this, that, and the other thing, you're just like, Lao Tzu says, just let it be. Just let it be. And you will it'll come back around. You'll find that stability. And you'll even be surprised at how much better the outcome is than you were expecting before, than had you tried to control it. Right? So that's number two. Number three is the practical shit. So number one and number two are sort of just mindset issues. And, as it pertains to the platform and the app that I'm building, it's the same kind of thing, right? Like it's riddled with uncertainty and I'm unsure and it's unclear and I have to dictate the direction and I have to explain, get my team going where they need to go to give us the best shot of success. But that's nothing that I can do. That's sort of just training my mind to be okay with uncertainty and not look at uncertainty as a problem, but as just as it is, as a thing. It just is what it is, mate. And so looking at uncertainty as a feature of life, not even as a feature of life, like the defining characteristic of life. Static is not life. Dynamic is alive, right? So just mindset shift. But the actual, that's just like sort of, yeah. So that's mindset level. But like the actual practical, okay, what's the practical? What's the tactics, bro? Give me the tactics. How do we actually become okay with this? The simplest thing, like I would find it remiss to give you a 10, step plan on just random exercises and a variety of different things that you could do to sort of be okay with the thing, like exercises and stuff. You can do that if you want, like if that helps you sort of come to a conclusion faster and be okay, be comfortable with it. But I think like the reality of the situation, what it ultimately comes down to is, what are you doing every day to affect the outcome that you want? That's it. Like, that is it, right? Like, you are living in uncertainty of, precarious employment circumstances. Okay, that's okay, right? That's what I'm living through right now. I don't know where my next job is coming from. I don't know what it's going to be, and I don't know where my next paycheck is going to come from, in a few weeks from now. What am I doing on a daily basis to affect that outcome? Well, I'm sending in applications, I'm talking to people, I'm seeing what's out there. That's it. That's that's all you got. That's really all you got. I mean, if we're talking about like real like practical tips and tricks, my guy, I'm sorry that I couldn't hit you with like some, fucking what's the name of this silly website? I even forgot. Like this is fucking TikTok fucking, the whatever 10 tactics to deal with uncertainty and like oh, no. And I'm not a psychologist either. You know what I mean? Like I'm not a licensed professional who can hit you with like the in-depth studies and research on like what are some effective ways of living through this, because ultimately if you are with a therapist, all you guys are going to do is just talk about it. You're going to tell them why you feel uncomfortable and uncertain, and then they're going to tell you what you can do to solve that, and what that is going to be practical steps on securing that, right? Like when you're actually participating, you feel less uncertain, because when you're participating, you feel like you actually not have control of the situation, but have control of the situation. When you're participating in life, you feel like you're not just a bystander anymore. You feel like, or you feel less like life is just happening to you and more like you're in control of what's happening. And that was the fundamental problem to begin with. The feeling, the discomfort and uncertainty is because you feel like you're not in control of what's happening. You feel like life is happening to you, and ultimately you're afraid of letting go, right? And it's that fear of letting go that's preventing you from, at the end of the day, nothing is yours. Nothing is yours. Nothing is yours to keep. Any relationship, any object, material or otherwise, the only thing that you have is your mind. And even that could just one day just be like, yo, I'm out. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, nothing is yours. And so this thing of trying to like control it and, you know, keep it as tightly as you can is doing more harm than good. And so the way to deal with that uncertainty is to participate in the world. And I think that is what's helped me the most. Because since, as far as I can remember, since birth, I had problems with uncertainty. And anytime something changed in a way that I wasn't like, I wasn't, that I didn't premeditate or that I wasn't expecting, it would throw me so far off, and I would just be uncomfortable for days. You know what I mean? Days on days on days. Until I started actively participating in the world. So again, if you told your therapist like, yo, I'm sort of nervous about the jobs and I don't know what's this and I don't know what's this, your therapist is probably going to be like, okay, well, so what are you doing about it? Are you going on job boards? Are you talking to people? Are you sending out applications? Are you going out into the streets, walking into businesses and seeing what it is and what it ain't is? That's probably what they're going to tell you, right? Because that action leads to results. And if you stack the chips in your favor, if you're doing all the good actions that, at least hypothetically will lead to the result that you're looking for, then you stand a better chance of executing and affecting the result that you're looking for, right? And so that's really, really number one, just accept, just come to accept. And there are a number of books that are going to help you do that, right? Like, so if you want to get really spiritual with it, the Tao Te Ching, this shit slaps hard. It's difficult to read sometimes because sometimes I'm like, nigga, what the fuck are you talking about? You know what I mean? Like, it's really like, sometimes it's just so, I'm like, I don't even know what that means. But it's cool because then you can read it a number of times and it'll sort of apply to your life in any situation. Yeah, kind of like the Bible. The Bible's a story and he's saying some shit, but sometimes you're just like, what? But then you can read it a number of times, and every time you read it, it'll like it'll open up, like you'll get a new interpretation of what the fuck is going on, because it's sort of so vague. In a way, I'm not trying to diss the Bible, I'm just saying. So the Tao Te Ching, similar type of steez. And then meditations, Marcus Aurelius, my guy, check it out. This guy knew some shit. This nigga was on some shit. And all other Stoic philosophers within. And so they help a lot. Like, if you want a philosophy that sort of helps you deal with the uncertainty of life and deal with the fact that you can't really control anything, like you feel like you can control things, but at the end of the day, life just happens. Meditations is a good Stoic philosophy as a whole, as a teaching, is a good way to sort of be comfortable with the fact that you cannot, just the life that life is variable, and you can't own anything and you can't keep anything, and it's not yours. You are just sort of enjoying it while it's available, type of thing. And so that's cool. But yeah, so number one is, at the very least, just recognize and accept that life is variable and it's not up to you. Like, life is indifferent to the max. Like, the universe don't give a fuck. The universe will create everything and then create the exact things that will destroy it. It's called balance. You know what I'm saying? It'll create the stars and the planets and life, and then in the same breath, it will create black holes that are just there to swallow everything and destroy it. Completely indifferent. Doesn't care. All right, so just accept that that is the nature of the steez. I don't want you to go down like a whole existential rabbit hole and be like, oh my God, nothing matters and nothing means anything. No, in fact, if anything, what you should, if you allow yourself to sort of wiggle through the difficulties and recognize what's happening, if anything, that just means that life is sick, because it's a video game, because you can just do whatever you want, right? Because ultimately nothing really matters. So, like, who gives a fuck? Who gives a fuck what you do? Just become the person that you're trying to become and play the game of life. Have fun. You know what I mean? Like, if you feel like you want to go and start a fucking, brand, or the fashion line or something, go do it. Just go do it. Just go have fun. Go do it. You know what I mean? Those who do deserve, type of situation. If you feel like you want to be the CEO of a company, go talk to people, email people, find out what it takes to become the CEO of a company. Just talk to people. Just do it. You know what I mean? Because it's ultimately nothing matters. So, like, it's a game. And so, number one, just accept that it is what it is. And you know what I mean? Like, life is impermanent and change is necessary. Not only necessary, but a requirement. Number two is just accept, or learn to be comfortable with, like, just like, it, like, you know what I mean? It is, and it will, and it's, you know what I mean? It's just, I lost my train of thought. Learn to accept, give your sort of, just put it out there into the universe, give it to a higher power or whatever. And it could be anybody. It is so arbitrary. It could be your best friend. And you could just don't put the onus on them like that, like they're responsible for the outcome of your life. But it could be this cup of coffee right here. This is your cup of coffee. And you're like, this Tim Hortons cup of coffee, I'm placing my faith in its ability to create the life I want to live. And just this one right here is special. And it will, all I need to do is put my faith in it, and I'm going to be a billionaire. But this cup of coffee right here is going to resolve everything. Will come back to a resolution, and it'll be okay. This cup of coffee right here. Or it could be God, or it could be the universe, it could be anything, right? And then number three, the real big deal, is the steps. What are the actual actions that you are doing? How are you participating in life to affect the outcome that you want? And if you can focus on this bit, like actually doing this stuff, not in the sense of trying to move mountains, like trying to force situations to happen, no, but actually participating in life, getting out there, making shit happen. Like I said, if you want to start a whole sneaker line of sneakers, get out there, talk to people, email people, draw up these sneakers, do that shit. If you want to become a chef, get out there. Start cooking, start talking to people, visiting kitchens, visiting restaurants, doing that. And if you can get in it and focus more on the actual doing, nature likes that. Nature, the universe, likes things to be done, right? It likes doing. It likes doing. So if you're just sitting there worried about how things are out of control and you have no control over the world,
you will suffer. But if you get out into the world and do, you will be rewarded for doing, and you will feel, and if you focus on just doing, not really the outcome of the do, but the process of the do, you will be rewarded for the do. You feel me? That's kind of how that is. And that's something that I'm trying to, coach myself and remind myself every day. Just do the thing on a daily basis, just do. And then you'll feel ultimately less uncertain because you're more focused, like your mind is focused on doing stuff and not catastrophizing and worrying about things not being done. And you are also putting, butterfly effect. You're putting things out there that could ultimately culminate into the thing that you want. So I might talk a little bit more about this going forward, but I just wanted to throw that out there because I think that this is valuable and an important mindset for somebody to adopt when they're trying to do big things in their life. Otherwise, you will stop yourself. You will get in the way of your own potential from freaking out about the fact that you're not in control of your potential. You know what I mean? Which ultimately you're not, but you can do some things to get more of the results that you're looking for, if that makes any sense. So I hope that helped. All right. Subscribe. Yeah. Okay.